Mr. Owen Paterson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's a pleasure to follow the Right Honourable Member for North Belfast. I agree with every word he said. Mr. Speaker, let's go back. David Cameron promised that if people voted Conservative in the 2015 election, there would be an in or out referendum. The people would decide. No ifs, no buts, no second choice. They would decide. He won, to his horror, and had to deliver the referendum after a botched negotiation. What happened? We had a referendum. Absolutely clear. All the process in this House said, you will be sovereign. We, the MPs, will give you the decision. You will decide. We then had Project Fear Mark 1. The people were bombarded with propaganda. £9 million of leaflets sent, crazy stuff from George Osborne's Treasury, and the people voted to leave. 17.4 million people voted to leave, the largest vote in British history on any single subject. We then had, what does leave mean from those who lost? What did it mean?
What does it?
You, the Honourable Member for Wantage, was elected, as I was, on a platform at the next election, because the Prime Minister very helpfully said, leave means leave the single market, leave the customs union and leave the remit of the European Court of Justice. And every single Conservative member was elected on that, and helpfully the Labour Party endorsed it. So 85% of the votes in the general election endorsed leaving to mean leaving those three things. We then have the Lancaster House speech, which said there would be no halfway house. What we've got in this document does not deliver. If this is passed, there will be the most appalling disillusion with our institutions. The people will have been thwarted and deprived by the establishment. We've seen it this evening. The political establishment hates Brexit. We've seen the commercial establishment, the CBI, hates Brexit. We know the media establishment hate Brexit. But the damage to our institutions, Mr. Speaker, will be grievous. So what we have here is worse than where we are at the moment. I was the DEFRA Secretary. I represented the country for the CAP negotiations. We worked with allies in Germany or Hungary, wherever. We stopped some of the stupider proposals going through in the CAP reform. We had to swallow an awful lot because we always got outvoted eventually in qualified majority voting. We won't be there from now on. We will have law imposed upon us. We won't be able to amend it in this House. We won't be able to repeal it. The idea that we can sign trade deals, sadly, is a nonsense. I was in Washington 2 weeks ago. Democrats, Republicans, senior members of the USTI made it absolutely clear that countries cannot do trade deals with other countries that do not set their tariffs or their regulated regime. We will not set our tariffs. We will not set our regulated regime. And then we have the horror of the backstop, so eloquently described by the Right Honourable Member for North Belfast. This is disgraceful. It really is. We think of the difficulties getting the Belfast Agreement signed. The absolute pillar was the principle of consent, that the status of Northern Ireland would never change without the majority of the people in Northern Ireland voting. And what do we have? Something ghastly called UKNI has been created. Northern Ireland will be under a different regime. That's a breach of the Acts of Union of 1801. It is extraordinary that this has been allowed through.